Always Aligned podcast. Wherever you are at in the universe, you are always aligned. And the reason I say that is because no matter if you mess up, God is the master creator of all things, and he will work the bad in with the good, and he will use you, and you will stretch out like a rubber band as far as you want. As far as you want, living for self, and eventually you will snap back to the reality and the purpose that he has for you with consistent surrender and accountability and trusting in his timing and just walking in the spirit. I understand that I haven't given my testimony yet. And there's a reason I'm wearing this shirt. There's a reason I'm wearing this hat. And all I gotta say is the timing, when God's timing is God's timing, you gotta trust in God's timing. And sometimes you can overthink and feel like you've delayed a thing that you felt like you needed to act on. But the reason it didn't act on just then, when you were supposed to, when you thought you're supposed to, well, there was a reason behind the hesitancy. Yes, you are called to be courageous. Yes, you are called to act on God's word and these things. But maybe God already knows that you weren't going to act then. So other things need to be taken into place. More constructing of the house needs to be done. Sometimes you don't see the wires getting put into the house to make the lights go on in a certain way, so you don't see that aspect of the house building. You just see the walls going up. Okay? So we're gonna my name is Brian Dick. I have this podcast, this Always Aligned podcast, and I believe it was created for a reason. I believe God helped in the process of designing this podcast and getting it to the point where I fall into my purpose and my destiny with obviously some help and guidance from God. And the reason for this podcast is to bring more people into alignment with Christ, for them to walk into their destiny and their purpose and have their kingdom come down on here on earth. And we're going to get pretty deep. We're going to get pretty intense, because this testimony, I've heard a lot of testimonies, and I've never heard any testimony like mine. So we're gonna try to do this in a timely manner, but this is a long going thing. This happened in May of 2020. Where was my mind state in these moments in time before this situation happened? Let's see. I had an ex-girlfriend break up with me of 2.5 years. All I was doing is gaming, smoking a bunch of weed, smoking a bunch of cigarettes, drinking on the weekends. The girl broke up with me, and I went back to the lifestyle of just downloading the dating apps and just kind of, it sounds bad, but you're just sleeping around. It's kind of like the way I literally said this when I was doing it, and it sounds so vulgar and disgusting, but I said Tinder's like skip the dishes. And we're just going to be raw and real here. I'm not going to hold back on where my mind state was there. It was very carnal, to the point where it's at now. Thank Jesus. So anyways, I'm in this weird mind state where my job that I have, I work at a grocery store delivering groceries, not making much money, but I feel some way of, oh, this is enough, and I'm just going to game out every night and smoke weed and just had no sense of purpose. And I was aware that I was lost. And for some reason I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll become like a gamer and get paid for gaming, because that would be fun, right? But obviously I wasn't good enough to play those games. I thought I was good, but it's like other people were leveling up their game noticeably, and I wasn't. And it just, anyways. So there was a moment in time where I was living with like 5 other people, and I got a hold of some LSD, and I take half a tab of LSD. Okay, and let me make a disclaimer here. I'm not promoting psychedelics, not even in the slightest. I think psychedelics is an illegal border that you are trespassing through into these realms, these either angelic realms or demonic realms, and you give full permission to Satan and his minions to basically enter in and deceive you. And I will clarify why I'm even saying this at all. But now that the world is opening up like this movement where you can get psychedelics pretty much anywhere, I feel like I know why that's happening now, because it's not, sure, there's a lot of like breakthroughs that a lot of people have because they have these angelic moments and stuff like that. But realistically, there's a lot of other aspects people aren't looking at from the spiritual side of it. So anyways, I take a half tab of LSD and I go in my room and I start gaming out. And then I come downstairs for some reason, and my sister, she was living with me at the time, and she's like, you need to listen to this song. And she shows me this song, and the song is called He is the Same by Jon Bellion. I advise that you guys go to the album cover of this song and listen to the song also. But you will see on the album cover, I have it on my wall here. I've bought it ever since this happened. But it's a man walking, and behind him is basically these pillars and walls, and everything's collapsing behind him, and it's a very spiritual album like cover, and everybody's falling, and there's people getting pulled into like the pits of hell by other like demonic forces, by like, and like there's like these fat men, skinny men, greedy men, and that's all happening behind him, and he's walking forward, and where he's walking, where his feet are, it's very angelic. Everything's vibrant, everything's beautiful, majestic, and behind his head is the sun. Okay, and it's completely aligned with his head, right? And at the top it says the human condition, going around the sun, around his head, with like these beautiful like doves and birds. Check it out. But now you'll get a sense of me describing it. So anyways, I look at the album cover, and I don't even look at the album cover. I listen to the song, and the beginning of the song starts off with a beep, okay? And by 3/4 of the song, it gets very trippy and intense, where it says he is the same, then it says nothing has changed, he is the same, and then it transforms into a female's voice and says we are the same. And then it's like it's this very synchronistic, like spiritual connection of like the oneness, and it's very like intense. But anyways, I listened to this song probably like, I don't know, probably for an hour and a half. It was on repeat, and I didn't even know it, because the way the song ends, it's very intense, but then all of a sudden that beep starts, and it's like Groundhog Day. I just keep repeating it, and I was having this awakening of some sort. I was tripping out. Obviously, I was on half a tab of LSD, so I'm tripping out. because it's saying he is the same, but it's saying we are the same. And the ones that are truly pursuing God in the most deepest ways, you will understand that Christ abides inside of us. So that means we are all the same. We are all one. Okay. So I realized within an hour and a half, 2 hours, that this song is been repeating. I'm like, oh wow, let's check out the album. I seen the cover, and I'm just tripping out the whole time because it's just so very like the even the avatar in the album looks like me, right? So I'm tripping out. I end up listening to the whole album, and the whole album is like talking to me. When I say talking to me, I felt like it was God. Like God was talking to me. And it's very intense, right? It's going to the darkest parts of my mind and the lightest part of my mind. It brought me to the point where I literally felt I was in this demonic realm, and all of a sudden it felt like I was like dying, and it felt like my ego like somehow died, and then I was nothing and everything, and all of a sudden there was this bright white light. And I went to the point, it felt like I went to the point where my parents created me. Like my butt and my mouth were connected, and then they split. And I became like this. Like I was just this atom, and then I split into this thing. I was like reborn in a sense. Okay, crazy, right? So I listened to that album probably till like 4 a.m. In this album, it's like telling me about like the end of the album. The last song ends with like the whole song. Like just listen to the whole album, and you'll understand how trippy it is. Obviously, no one's gonna have my exact personal experience to feel like God was literally talking to me. But I feel like that moment in time was destined for me to experience it in that certain way. But the last song on the album is called Hand of God. And at the time, on my phone, my screensaver was like this digital earth on the screen. And there was like a hand holding this digital earth above his hand. And like, I was like in this trance, dancing around my room. Like I felt like I was like the best dancer in the world. I was moving around. It was like I wasn't even in control. And that last song comes on, and it ends with Hand of God. And I'm looking, and my hands like holding my phone and looking at the screensaver, and I'm like just tripping out, right? I had such an intense experience with this that I didn't know if I could trust anyone with what I just experienced. Because I started to think I was Jesus in this era and time when this happened. And I was like, I remember not wanting to leave my room the next morning because I didn't feel like I could trust anyone. Okay? With this knowledge and this information, I'm like, I don't understand what this reality even is anymore. And I ended up coming to, and I ended up, admitting to these things to certain people. And obviously, I didn't have the Bible. I didn't have the guidance maybe that I maybe should have had at the time, because this was a 2-year integration process of me using psychedelics to feel like I had to connect with God. So I had other surreal experiences with psychedelics, like either listening to a different album and stuff like that, or going for a walk or going for a run while I'm on these things. And I am experiencing these different types of realms, but this is not the way. Like I remember the one time, I don't know what I was on. It was It might have been, it was either LSD or shrooms. I don't know what it was. But I remember this, I was in my room and I remember having these thoughts, and all of a sudden the sun started creeping through the window, and it felt like it was chasing me, but it felt like it was talking to me also. And I was like telepathically talking to me, and I was asking it if it was protecting me, and it was like a surge of no, or you don't understand, you're doing, it was not a good feeling. And then I just said, I don't know. And I just felt very lost, right? So I'm searching for answers here, right? And there's a lot of things we established that this podcast was created right after me having this experience, right? So I had all these philosophy ideas, and I thought I was figuring out the universe and all these things, and that's when, so what happened when I took these psychedelics, Satan tricked me, because what does Satan think he is? Satan thinks he's God. Satan thinks he can do better than God. That's the Antichrist, right? So that Antichrist, that spirit, was dwelling inside of me because I thought these things for myself too. And it got to the point where I ended up moving. I moved once after the first experience, and then I moved again because I was slowly starting to believe in Jesus, but I was starting to believe in Jesus in the wrong ways. But I was on the path to starting to believe in Jesus. Anyways, in this process, my mom ended up buying me a Bible, because I thought the Bible was created for me, it was oh, I needed to reread this stuff to understand who I am and all these things. So I'm reading the Bible and everything's intense, so I'm consuming the words, right? But I still haven't come to this conclusion that these psychedelics are bad for me. I haven't come to the conclusion that weed is bad for me. I haven't come to the conclusion that drinking is bad for me. You know what I mean? So I'm still living in these types of ways. Oh, and I was smoking cigarettes all the time, but after the first experience, I quit smoking immediately. It's I knew that was damaging my vessel. I knew inherently, and it was so easy to quit cold turkey. But okay, back to, now we're fast forwarding to 2022, on New Year's night. I had my own place in an apartment in Lethbridge, Alberta. And I'm well, I didn't really have anyone to hang out with for New Year's. So I'm I'm going to have New Year's on my own. I'm going to celebrate New Year's on my own. But I'm going to take some LSD and I'm going to connect. Okay. So I take this LSD and I'm pacing around my house. And when you take psychedelics, it brings you into the now. You can't think about the past, you can't think about the future. All you can think about is now. And sometimes that's overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do. I'm just pacing back and forth. All I could think about was exactly where I was. And I had this yoga mat, and I get on this mat, and I just put my head down, and I pray. But I didn't know I was really praying. I just kind of put my head down there and just stayed in that essence of just keeping my head down, because I felt like that was going to help me, because I was in this weird, I was in the now, but it was just very intense. And I had my desk, and I had the Bible open at Revelations at my desk. It's the last 4 or 5 pages of Revelations. And I get up from doing my prayer thing, and I get up and I start reading Revelations. And the words are coming to life, where one sentence meant like 10 different things. And I was getting this insight from it, of this understanding of it. And all of a sudden it felt like I could feel Jesus's voice, or it wasn't just like I could hear his voice, but I could like feel. And he's like saying, like, I'm coming soon. At the very end, he's like, I'm coming soon. It's very intense. I'm very emotional. Like, I'm literally crying over my Bible. And I'm like, probably like a quarter of a cup worth of tears. Like, overwhelmingly, right? Right as soon as I finish the Bible. Right as soon as I get to the end. And I'm like, I like signed it with my tears. I'll show it when the time's right, whatever. And right when I finish, there's a pop. That was the fireworks. So I finished reading it exactly at 12 o'clock. Okay? And my dad at the time, he went on one of his first vacations by himself since my mom and dad's divorce. So he started finally getting out there, doing good things for himself, like treating himself. I was very happy for him. And I get on my phone and I felt called to message him on Messenger. And I said, Happy New Year's. I love you so much. And in that time, he read it instantly. All of a sudden, I had overwhelmingly emotions where I felt like I could feel what that felt like to him, to hear that from his son. He FaceTimes me immediately. It's going to get way more intense here. He doesn't know I'm on LSD. And the first thing he says to me, he said, first of all, he can see me and I'm weeping. I can't contain myself. I'm just crying. He's like, hey. It's okay. And in this moment in time, as I'm looking at him on screen, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm looking at my dad and I can see God through my dad. But he's playing this role of God in my dad. Like, he's like, it's okay. And then he just said, he's like, he's like, you're not Jesus, but you got what he's got. And I'm like, what? Like, and he's saying this. He doesn't know I'm on LSD, tripping out, reading from the Bible. He doesn't know any of this. I'm like, I don't know. And then I'm looking at my dad. He's out by a pool outside. And behind his head, I see the kingdom of heaven through a screen in the sky behind his head. I can't unsee it. I just can't unsee it. I've seen it and I can't unsee it. I know it's there. So, okay, that's crazy, right? And I'm like telling my dad, I'm like, I think I gotta go. I'm experiencing, like, it feels like a whole different realm. And he's like, wow, that's beautiful. It's like he still doesn't know that I'm on this stuff. So he ends up letting me go. And then I sit back in my chair and I'm looking at the Bible. And all of a sudden, all these voices start coming into my head. Like, all these voices. I don't know if it's all the voices from the Bible, like all the names in the Bible, or if it was all these like demonic voices. It was just a bunch of voices. But all of a sudden I heard one voice that canceled all the noises, and it said, the Christ, the Christ, the Christ. And I was like, as it was happening, I was like, you know how like you can crack your neck? It was like I was like cracking my neck while this was happening. And it was like I was like upgrading. It was like I was like being adopted or into like I felt like I got baptized by the Holy Spirit, me crying, and that was like confirmation I was getting upgraded into God's family, right? Like, this is me in a different perspective looking at it now. I didn't think of that then. Okay. So that was intense. And then I'm like, wow, what the heck's going on? And I sit back and I'm sitting in this chair and I'm like set back and I'm just like, the heck? And my Bible's open at the last page of Revelations. And I'm just like looking at it, and all of a sudden, there's this face. And this face is moving back and forth, and it's just like this beautiful, profound face. But it's not just any face. It's a woman's face. Very angelic and moving up and down, and it's like on the Bible. And I'm like, this is holy. All I can think is, this is holy. This is holy. Especially from what I read from Revelations. It says, when Christ return, it's going to feel like a bride on her wedding day. Right? I'm like, oh, this is intense. Like, this is so holy. This is so holy. This is sacred. Sacred holy. That's all I could think in that time. All of a sudden the face goes from the Bible and it goes to the walls. Then it's on my desk, on the walls, and then all of a sudden the face turns to a bunch of eyes. Just eyes. And I wasn't like scared, but I felt like I was in the presence of God, the great I am. Okay. So I'm looking at the walls and I'm seeing this and I'm just like, God is here. God is here. There's no question. And I go to my bathroom. I get up. I go to my bathroom. I have this big mirror in this bathroom I was living at the time. And I go in the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I look at myself in the mirror. And I see in my veins, I see gold geometrical patterns in my veins. The blood of Christ inside me. And I look into my eyes and I have no fear. I see Christ within. He manifested himself to me in that moment. I seen him through me because he lives inside of me. Doesn't mean I'm Jesus. It means that Christ abides inside me. Christ lives inside all of us that accept him in and are baptized in the Holy Spirit. So, fast forward to now a year now. Now I feel called to move to Calgary, Alberta. I thought I was going to go pursue stand-up comedy. Turns out that's not what I was supposed to be doing. And fast forward to July, was it, I think, 7th or 8th of 2023. This is during the rodeo times. And I'm literally wearing this shirt. Because I've never been the same. I see a shirt like this, I'm buying it. Because I had this experience. I'm like, God is a female. Like, I know, like, it's crazy. I'm like, I'm gonna represent this. Anyways, I still have these issues, these patterns that I'm still not fully dissolving. So we can name them. We could say I won 2 poker tournaments, and then all of a sudden I think I'm a good poker player. So I was playing poker that day. I thought I was gonna go steal. Well, not steal, but like win all this money playing against all these poker players during the Stampede grounds, and this was at the Cowboy Casino here in Calgary. And I ended up losing $200. And I felt very isolated. I felt very alone. I'm standing outside of Cowboys. And these women that are selling these roses, it's kind of like a scam, but not really. kind of. They're from Romania. They mean well. They bought a bunch of roses and then they give the rose to you, but then they expect money. But people don't know that they're asking for money. They think they're just giving them a rose. There's a catch-22. You got to give them money. So I ended up buying a rose. And I'm standing out there and I'm watching everybody rifle in to the Stampede grounds. And I'm just seeing everybody is just, I just feel very out of the world. I feel very isolated. I'm just seeing, I'm not judging, but I just see like everybody's just like, it's like a herd of cattle going to get wasted and do a bunch of like worldly things. And I just feel very alone. And I'm just having like a very not great moment. And then there's this guy playing this music along the street while these women are going around with their roses. And all of a sudden there's this song and it somehow just touches me in a way, and I got very emotional. And then eventually the lady that I ended up buying the rose from, she tries to get me to buy some more. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel a little lost. I don't know what's going on with my life. Like, I just don't know. And she's like, can I pray for you in Jesus' name? Can I pray for you? I'm like, yeah, of course. And so she prayed for me in Jesus' name. And I felt very grateful that she was going to do that. Right? Because I'm still like, I still haven't come to full circle that, like I have to surrender. So I'm still trying to do this on my own. So I end up getting prayed for, and then all of a sudden I have this idea. There was a girl at the time that I was talking to, this Christian girl, and she asked me if I was going to church. I'm like, well, I don't know any Bible-based churches. And then so there was a list that I got off. I ended up taking a screenshot from when I was talking to her at the time, so I kept that. And I felt called to look at this screenshot to see all these lists of churches. And then I look at a church, right? Well, I look at all these churches, but there was only one that stood out to me. Because ever since I started traveling, I always said, life. Like, what is life? I always question it. Ever since I started traveling, what is life? So for some reason, I look at this church, and it's called Calgary Life Church. And so I go to the website, check it out, just check the website out. I was going to make sure it's Bible-based, right? And turns out they ended up having a baptism that coming Sunday. This was like a Thursday or a Friday that this was going on. Anyways, I just felt called. I'm like, I'm getting baptized. I'm done. I'm doing this. So I sign up, sign up to do the baptism. And I call my mom, my dad, my sister separately, and I said, I'm just getting baptized this Sunday. It's okay if you guys are busy. I'm happy. It's happening. I'm doing it. It's very last minute. I understand if you guys can't come. Fast forward to Sunday, my mom and I go to the very first service because we're nervous and we want to check things out. We know that it's the second service that the baptisms are happening, but we went to the first service, just me and her. And as soon as we walk in, we are greeted instantly by the pastors. And I ended up mentioning that I was getting baptized. And then the pastor explains what baptism is. And basically how he described it is what I've experienced already on New Year's. But this was the visual aspect that I'm going into in the surrender. And my mom, the whole time while he was talking, just tears flowing down. It was intense. We do the worship music of the first service, and me and my mom are just bawling our eyes out. Just bawling. And it gets to the second service. And I'm just ready. At this point, I'm just like, let's go. I already had, like, my dad bought me a chain with the cross. Like, I'm full in, all in for Jesus. Like, I know I'm not. I know I'm not. But I believe in him, and I believe that he resides inside me because I've accepted him in. So now I'm just ready. I'm like probably the 6th or 7th person in, and I'm like, don't know what to expect. And I'm not putting on a show for no one here. This isn't for anyone. This is for God. And I wasn't sure what to expect. But when I got baptized, I know it was very emotional on my family's end, everybody that was there, my sister, my mom, and my dad. It was the first time my mom and dad was in the same building within like 6 or 7 years since being divorced. That was the first time they were under the same roof. So that was a miracle already. And then I go to the bathroom to go change, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I feel the same way I felt on New Year's. But I felt nothing but peace in my mind. I felt it was just quiet. There's no noise. I remember saying to my mom at the end of the service, I think I see my wife there. I didn't think anything of it. I just said that. I don't know why. And now I've been at that church for over a year now. A lot of things have happened. You know, what is meant for you is meant for you. And by you surrendering to Jesus wholeheartedly, you will fall into your destiny. And I just feel like I'm living in a dream that God has divinely orchestrated for me. And I'm having these, you can't even call them coincidences anymore. Everything just keeps aligning. You think about why my podcast is named Always Aligned. There's things I've experienced, and I don't know how much I want to share right now. I'll share in the future. I've received visions of my future and things of my wife. And I haven't even talked to her yet. God is so good. And if you follow him, he will turn all these bad things you have done for your good. You just gotta believe. You gotta have that faith. Faith means so many things. It's not just the belief in God. It's in the faith of this. Every single step is divinely orchestrated for you. And the reason the struggle and the pain and all the hardship is because you are supposed to be exalted from it. But where is the self-awareness to notice the patterns, to understand you can't do it on your own, to give it up to God and be honest with him truthfully, wholeheartedly, tell him every single dirty secret you have in that closet, and he will release it from you. He just wants you to see it first. So the reason I'm wearing this shirt and this hat is because we have been given a promise, and in Revelation That promise is the manifestation of Jesus through you. If you start with the faith, it starts with the faith. And the deeper the faith goes, the more called to obedience you want. It's never about your works, but the deeper your faith goes, it's the more your heart gets more tender, and you understand the love of God, when you can understand the love that he has for his people, and he wants everybody to feel that love deeply. And he will work your heart in a way where you will feel someone else's pain and help them get through it by listening to them or just praying over them. Jesus said himself, you will see greater things. Greater things. We're all living in this time together right now. And if we fully all step into alignment with Christ consciousness, with the mind of Christ, removing the carnal, walking fully in the Spirit, there's nothing stopping us. And we will bring heaven here down on earth. I have no doubt. God's time. God bless.